Hi everyone. So this is a video, just a short video about the figurative language textbook assignment. You do not need the textbook in order to be able to do this assignment. I have scanned all the pages that you will need and I've put them in the Google document. Just wanted to make this video for a few reasons. One reason, if you're having a little bit of trouble, if you're confused about something, or if you have any questions, then hopefully this video can answer those questions. Another reason is because I'm going to read aloud some of the poetry and some of the words, and maybe that helps you. I'm not going to read the short story out loud because that would take a little bit of time. There's a short story called The Jacket, but I am going to read some of the poetry, and hopefully you find that beneficial if you like to hear some of this read out loud. And then the last thing is hopefully this can sort of, kind of feel like we're in the classroom. I know that we're not going to see each other for the rest of the school year, so hopefully this video is the next best thing to kind of being here for you and hopefully addressing any of your issues or concerns about this assignment, just like we would have if we were in the classroom. Okay, so I am here on Google Classroom. You can see my screen. I believe this is fifth period, just as an example. I'm going to go up here to classwork. I'm going to scroll down to April 20th, assignments and resources. And I'm going to click on literature textbook figurative language. I see that 6 people have already turned this in. If at any point you want to resubmit it, you can. If you want to change some of your answers, you can do that. And also, I might check over your work and say, hey, you didn't meet the standard, so you might need to resubmit it. So please, please, please work your absolute best on this, because if not, you might need to redo it or tweak some things and resubmit, and we don't want you to have to do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on this. Now, there are a lot of pages to this document, but that's because I've included all of the textbook pages that you will need. It says at the very top, here are all of the literature book pages you'll need for this assignment. Scroll down, you will type your answers in the literature book figurative language worksheet. Okay, so there's all of these pages that you are going to have to at least scan. Okay, some of these you can scan, some of these you're actually going to have to read word for word. But this is all about figurative language. And then when you get down to page 15 on the document, you can see where you are supposed to type all of your answers, right? So the directions say you are using the attached literature book pages to complete this assignment. All answers must be in complete sentences. I also prefer you to restate if you can. You are typing on this document. Feel free to watch the recorded lesson from Monday. I might have addressed some things on there um, that might be helpful to you, but also you're watching this video, so anything I said in the recorded lesson on Monday is probably also in this video. So I'm going to scroll all the way up here, and I'm going to sit down because my legs are starting to hurt. All right. So if you look at this page, we have page 582. This is a page all about simile, metaphor, personification, and hyperbole. You can look at this, look at some examples, look at the definitions. You're definitely going to have to be familiar with these 4 figures of speech in order to answer these questions. So this is a really cool poem. I'm going to read it out loud to you all, and I would like for you to follow along as I read it. First, I'm going to read the very top. It says, Part 3, Analyze the Text. Eve Merriam transports you to a familiar scene, a dinner table. Merriam uses many of the techniques you just learned about to help you visualize the scene and understand the speaker's relationship with his or her parents. So already I'm seeing this is a really cool poem because the title is a simile, but we do not know who or what are like bookends, so we have to read to find out. So please follow along. Like bookends, my father at one side, my mother at the other, propping me up, but unable to read what I feel. Were they born with clothes on? Born with rules on? When we sit at the dinner table, we smooth our napkins into polite folds. How was your day, dear? Fine. And how was yours, dear? Fine. And how was school? The same. Only once in a while, when we're not trying so hard, when we're not trying at all, our napkins suddenly whirl away and we float up to the ceiling where we sing and dance until it hurts from laughing. And then we float down with our napkin parachutes and once again spoon our soup and pass the bread, please. Now, in this poem, here's what I'm visualizing and picturing in my head. I am thinking of a family that's very proper, sitting up straight. They have their whole table set, um, I guess, in a fancy way with their china and their little forks and their big forks and their little spoons and their glassware. And they're doing things that their neighbors and society expects of them. So they're not really being their true, authentic selves. And then when we get to line 17, it says only once in a while. That is when we start to see just for a moment that little bit of realness and a little bit of a genuine conversation between this family. And they start to laugh and actually be themselves and maybe slump their shoulders a little bit, not sit up so straight. And then right after that moment, they go back to sitting up straight and being proper. So you have to kind of know that that is what this story is telling you in order to be able to answer these 5 questions. So take a look at number 1. It says that there is a simile in lines 1 through 6, and there is. Um, the father and mother are being compared to bookends. Now, bookends um, are kind of like figures. They can be lots of different figures. It could just be, trying to think of an example. Let's look up an example of bookends. Instead of me trying to stumble through explaining what they are, we can look up images. Yes, so you have these bookends that kind of hold books together. They hold books upright, they keep them in line. So the bookends are very important in keeping the books on a shelf in line and sitting up straight, right? So let me go back to our assignment. So the question is asking, how is the mother and father like bookends? Why would we compare them to bookends? Says in lines 1 through 6, like bookends, my father at one side, my mother at the other, propping me up but unable to read what I feel. So, in a complete sentence, or maybe 2 or 3 complete sentences, and also restate, I would like for you to answer that question. Now, where are you going to answer this question? You're going to scroll all the way down to page 15 of the document, and bam, you are going to type your answer here. And you're going to do that for 1 through 5. Okay, you're going to actually type your answer. Okay, let's go back up. Now, I am not going to go over all of this because we just don't have the time to do that. Unfortunately, if we were in the classroom, we would, but I don't want to take up any more of your time than what is necessary because I want you to really focus on this and work on this. But if you do have questions, please let me know. You can always send me an email, send me a remind text, or a message on Instagram. But number 2 is about contrasting 2 scenes. So you see this um, boxed scene right here, it's lines, looks like 9 and 10. And then the boxed scene right here, it looks like 23 and 24. So what you're doing is reading each of those boxes and deciding what is different. The scene is different in each of those boxes, and how is it different? Number 3 is about alliteration. Remember what alliteration is. It's the repetition of the beginning consonant sounds of words that are next to each other, such as Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. So you are going to find in lines 17 through 20, what is that repeating sound? What is that sound that makes those lines have alliteration? Number 4 is about a hyperbole in lines 20 through 21. So you're basically just answering, how is lines 20 through 21 a hyperbole? Okay, and then number 5, there's a metaphor in lines 23 through 24. Just identify that metaphor to say, something like, in lines 23 through 24, this and this are being compared using a metaphor. Okay, that's all you have to do for number 5. Okay, so if you keep scrolling down, you will see the next assignment. It's all on the same worksheet, but it is a different set of pages. This page is page 629. It has more information about a simile, metaphor, personification, and hyperbole. If you are doing these assignments on different days, then you might need to read this as a refresher. But if you're doing all of these at once on the same day, you probably don't need to read this. But it does have some really good examples. On the right-hand side, you will see something that I really like. It's a biography of all the different poets that you will see in this section. Like the first poem that we read will be by Emily Dickinson. So here's some information on Emily Dickinson. Here's some on Christina Rossetti, and then Ted Hughes. Okay, so I'm going to keep scrolling down. Here's a really cool poem by Emily Dickinson. And I'm going to read this and then ask what is expected of you in the question. So this is called I'm Nobody, Who Are You by Emily Dickinson. I'm nobody. Who are you? Are you nobody too? And there's a pair of us. Don't tell, they'd advertise, you know. How dreary to be somebody, how public like a frog to tell one's name the livelong June to an admiring bog. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't know what bog means, okay, it says at the very bottom it's an area of soft, waterlogged ground, but during NTI, sometimes Google can be your friend. So I'm going to look up some pictures of bogs. Okay, it's kind of like a gross looking lake, really. So we'll go back to the assignment. And if you don't know what dreary is, anything that's in bold, you have this definition on the right-hand side. So this question is basically asking you, is this comparison in the story or in the poem, is the comparison a positive comparison or is it negative, and why? How do you know? Okay. The next poem, oh, I'm sorry, let me scroll down and tell you where you're supposed to put that answer. All right, so I'm Nobody, Who Are You by Emily Dickinson. Figurative language question A. You would put that answer right here. Right here. Right? And then you would move on to the next poem. The next poem is called Is the Moon Tired by Christina Rossetti. So I'm going to read that poem out loud. Oop, passed it. And in this poem, the moon is being personified. So personification means that something that is not human is being given human abilities or human characteristics. So please follow along as I read this poem. Is the Moon Tired by Christina Rossetti. Is the moon tired? She looks so pale within her misty veil. She scales the sky from east to west and takes no rest. Before the coming of the night, the moon shows papery white. Before the dawning of the day, she fades away. So the first question you need to answer on this page is about making an inference. You're going to answer the making inferences question B. It says, what is the misty veil mentioned in line 2? So a veil is something that kind of goes over something else. Think of like a veil that a bride would wear. It goes over her face and you can't really see her face. So what in nature do you think would be a veil over the moon? And answer that on the worksheet. And the next question is about what kind of words are used to kind of illustrate personification in this poem. So what words do you see that are usually abilities or characteristics of humans, but we're using it to characterize or give abilities to the moon? Okay, make sure it's in complete sentences and make sure you restate. Okay, if you scroll down, here's a cool poem called Mooses. Okay, by Ted Hughes. I just ask that you follow along. The goofy moose, the walking house frame, is lost. In the forest, he bumps, he blunders, he stands. With massy bony thoughts sticking out near his ears, reaching out palm upwards to catch whatever might be falling from heaven. He tries to think, leaning their huge weight on the lectern of his front legs. He can't find the world. Where did it go? What does a world look like? The moose crashes on and crashes into a lake and stares at the mountain and cries, where do I belong? This is no place. He turns and drags half the lake out after him and charges the cackling underbrush. He meets another moose. He stares. He thinks, it's only a mirror. Where is the world? He groans. Oh, my lost world. And why am I so ugly? And why am I so far away from my feet? He weeps. Hopeless drops drip from his droopy lips. The other moose just stands there doing the same. Two dopes of the deep woods. So this first question about figurative language is asking you about the metaphor in the first line. So if you don't know what a house frame is, just basically think of a house. Why are we comparing this moose to a house? What would they even have in common? And then don't forget we have blunders, lectern, cackling. If you need to know what those words mean, the definition is on the right-hand side. The next question talks about a hyperbole in line 16. So line 16 reads, he turns and drags half the lake out after him. So imagine if this moose were to go into a lake, and then when he's exiting the lake, he's taking half the lake with him. Now that's probably an exaggeration. He's not that big. So I just want you to kind of explain that exaggeration. How is that an example of hyperbole? The next question is about alliteration. In the line, hopeless drops drip from his droopy lips. How do you think alliteration adds that imagery of his droopy face? How do you think it adds to that imagery and makes you really be able to think and visualize what that moose is looking like? And then you do not have to answer this make inferences question. You do not have to answer that. That doesn't really have anything to do with figurative language. Okay, and the last set of questions that you'll have to do is about a short story called The Jacket. And this page just reminds you what a simile and a metaphor is and what a summary is. You'll see right here it talks about summary. Gary Soto is the author of The Jacket, so if you want to read about him, you can. And then here's the story, The Jacket. And I am not going to read that to you. If you want me to read it to you, just let me know. I definitely can. But maybe have a parent or a sibling or another family member read it to you if you would like to have it read to you. But if not, then I can definitely read it to you. Just let me know. But you do not have to answer any questions on this page or this page. There is a question on this page. So similes and metaphor A. So identify the simile in line 25. So up here, line 25, it says, and flap the jacket like a bird's wings. So what you're basically doing here is this guy has this jacket on, this boy, and he's flapping his wings or flapping his arms to make it, to kind of mock what birds do. How does that show you what he feels about that jacket? Does he like that jacket? Does he not like that jacket? Is he making fun of that jacket? Just what do you think that shows? And that's what you're going to answer for similes and metaphors, question A on page 502. Okay. The next question is about summarizing. How do other people treat the narrator now that he is wearing the jacket? When it says record key events in your log, please ignore that. But what you are doing is just pick 2 or 3 of these incidences that are in this boxed area. Like this is a story about a boy who his mom got him a new jacket and he hates it. He thinks it's so ugly. So this whole box is actually listing all of the things that he blames the jacket for. So for example, right when he put on the jacket, the next day at school, he got a D on a math quiz. So I want you to just list some of these that are found in this box. Okay, how do other people treat him, or how does he think he's being treated because of the jacket? He probably didn't get a D because of his jacket, right? But maybe he was distracted because he was wearing an ugly jacket or something like that. So maybe he brought it upon himself. That's why he got a D. Okay, the next question is found on page 503. It is similes and metaphors question C. Identify the simile in lines 64 through 65. Even the girls who had been friendly blew away like loose flowers to follow the boys in their neat jackets. So basically, that just means the girls that would normally pay attention to him, now they're paying attention to other guys in the class instead of him, and he thinks it's because of his jacket. Okay, so your question is, how does this simile help you understand the boy's frustration? Okay, so how does that add to his frustration about his jacket? Okay, the next one is a summarized question. Summarized question D. What does the narrator blame the jacket for? So basically what you're doing is thinking in general, what is the jacket doing to his life? Okay. And the last question is similes and metaphors question E. Reread lines 104 through 105. It says, I, I started up the alley and soon slipped into my jacket, that green, ugly brother who breathed over my shoulder that day and ever since. So there's a metaphor there. We are comparing the jacket to a brother. So by saying that the jacket was breathing over his shoulder like a brother would, and that he remembers that jacket for the rest of his life, what do you think he's trying to say about that jacket? Okay, that one's probably the toughest one to think about and try to answer, but I'm really curious and really interested in seeing some of your answers for that one. So I hope you really liked this video. If you have any questions, just let me know. Oh, there's one more thing you have to do, and I forgot because it's not really in your textbook. It's kind of number 7 on this page, but not really. So another thing I want you to do is fill out that chart, and I can actually show it to you on here. Here it is. Fill out this chart as you read the jacket. Be sure to find at least 5 similes and metaphors total. This is similar to the chart from question number 7 on page 505. One example has been done for you. Now find 5 more examples. So you are finding 5 similes or metaphors. Okay, you can either find 5 similes, 5 metaphors, 2 similes, 3 metaphors. Totally up to you as long as it equals a total of 5. Now, you do not have to do 5 similes and 5 metaphors. That would be 10. You do not have to do that. So you would put your simile or metaphor here. Where did you find it? What line number? What does this simile or metaphor mean? Okay, literally, what does it mean? And then does it kind of give you a negative connotation or a positive connotation? Now, connotation just kind of means the feeling that you get from words. So does this simile kind of give out something positive, like, yay, I love this or that, or, I'm excited about this jacket? Or does it give kind of like a bad feeling or a negative feeling? Okay, so that's what you have to do. Just fill out all of this worksheet, turn this whole thing into Google Classroom when you get finished, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye, guys. Thank you for watching.